Don't have a copy of the questions for tonight. They are Chapter 6, The Period of Controversy, Part 2. And I have 4 or 5 copies left, and we'll see that you get them. I think Tim will actually see that you get them.
I was going to see that.
All right. We're down to the last one. And we ought to be able to finish everything up tonight. I'm thinking we will anyway. I've asked John if he'll lead the prayer for us. So let's bow together and have him lead us in prayer.
Father, we come before your throne tonight, thanking you for all the gifts of this day. We thank you for our health, for all those blessings that we can see. We thank you for those ones that we can't see and we don't have a clue about. Father, for us, we thank you for that. Father, even though we're coming together now to study your word, our minds and hearts are with those individuals who just went through Hurricane Helene, Father, and all the devastation it did there, and loss of life, and loss of material goods in their homes. Thank you for all those individuals who have stepped up to help them, Father. We pray for this administration that they would continue to try to help. Father, we're mindful of milk getting ready to come through the peninsula, the Florida peninsula. And we hear the mayors go and telling people they may not have anything to come back. We're mindful of all those individuals, Father. And with that kind of a wind, we know that there will be ultimately casualties, but we pray for their safety. We pray for the numbers to be very limited, Father, we're also thankful Elaine that you spared as many people as you did. And thank you for that, Father. Again, we ask that you be with the Christian organizations around this nation. We're first to get there. We're first to help. We thank you for the love that they have for you to do that, Father. These things we ask in your Son's name. And we say amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much. We are at question number 11. If you have one of the lists, and we'll deal with those. We are talking about the feeding of the 5,000. Just had gotten into that. Made the point that this is the only one of the miracles that is recorded in all of the gospel records. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which I think makes it significant that each of the writers believed that the inclusion of the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000 was worthy of being put there. So here's the question. What were the mechanics employed in feeding the 5,000? And what takeaway would you consider? So, what were the mechanics?
Some fish and some bread.
It was 5 loaves, 2 fish. We've made a point before, is that John pays very close attention to details. He just doesn't say some fish and some whatever bread. He said it was 5 loaves and 2 fish, but he goes a step further. How much further does he go? 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. Now, what does that tell you about the author of John? He was there, wasn't he? He knew the information. He had personal, first-hand information. And then he gives another detail about the feeding. You remember what it is?
Basket of fragments. Several baskets of fragments.
Okay, but before we get there, before we get to the fragments, they had to sit in very orderly bunches. In bunches of 50s and 100s. Well, now that makes sense, doesn't it? Can you imagine if Jesus had said, fellas, just take some of this fish and these loaves out there, and you people sit down wherever you want and just give them some of it? Can you imagine what would have followed? So they were to sit down in bunches of 50s and 100s, and then they were to be given some of the bread and the fish. But he did something before he had them give it out. What was it? He blessed it. That's right. He looked to heaven and he blessed it. That's kind of the Jesus thing, isn't it? That you're going to expect him to do that. That he's going to be very careful to give thanks as an example. And so you look at all of that. I just find that very interesting, that all of that information is filled in for us. And so they give it out, and what is the surprise? Everybody got all they wanted. Now, who else could take 5 loaves and 2 fishes and have the people sit down like that and start handing it out and everybody have all they want? And so much so that they had 12 baskets full left over. What do you think the disciples were saying? Oh no, leftovers next week. I know exactly what we're having next week. Loaves and fishes, here it comes again. And it's just the orderly way that Jesus would conduct business. And so they took up 12 baskets full and took it with them. There was going to be nothing left over. Does that kind of impress you about the way Jesus does business? I don't know about you, it does me. Maybe I'm the only one, but I think it just kind of impresses me is the way that he does business. Now, after this miracle, yes,
Matthew's account said how Jesus had compassion on them. Which kind of explains why.
yes, absolutely. Jesus had a way of feeling for people, didn't he? That he just could not leave things go as if this doesn't amount to anything. He had real compassion, real feeling for people, and demonstrates it here. Now, I assume that it's his disciples who ate the 5 loaves and 2 fish leftovers. I don't have any way of knowing that. Maybe the first people they met along the way, Jesus said, "Hey, you want something to eat? I've got something for you." I don't have any idea, but I do know that he was a man who cared. After this miracle, why did Jesus depart to be alone in the mountains?
He had a sense that the people were coming to take him and make him a king.
And if that was true, you wouldn't want to stick around. Jesus wouldn't want to stick around. He knew that he needed to get away. Let's just suppose that in the political stuff that's going on right now, if one of the leading candidates was to say, I will be able to feed everybody from here on out with all that you need, and you'll have leftovers. Do you think people would vote for that person? I would say it'd have my vote. But they thought, okay, Jesus can do this. Wonder what else he could do. If he can feed people like this with 5 loaves and 2 fishes, maybe he's the guy that we need to be our king. Now, remember back in Deuteronomy 18, they had been told, the people had been told that one like Moses, somebody like Moses was coming. Another like Moses. And so maybe they thought he is the stand-in for Moses. And he's the one who will come and he will take Moses' place and he'll be able to do all of these things. Why would the disciples have gone by boat to Capernaum, and what was significant about it? First of all, why did they go by boat?
Probably a faster way to do it, right? Was it a faster way, right?
Yeah, it was kind of like shortest distance. And I think that there's another reason. What are these people?
There was another lesson to be taught. Just like he went through Samaria, he knew to send them across the sea.
Absolutely. You know, Jesus did things because they needed to be done, not they needed to be done because there was no other way to do them, but because they needed to be done because people needed to be touched in some way by what was going on. And so it was a shorter distance. Remember who they are. Peter, Andrew, James, and John, at least, are fishermen. So they're going to be familiar with the water. So to get in a boat and go is not that big of a deal, except on this occasion. And on this occasion, it turned out to be a pretty big deal. And Jesus used it to make a very good point. Jesus had not given them a time or a place to wait for him and meet him. He had not said, okay, guys, let's meet over here at whatever. He had not given any information about when they were to meet or where they were to meet. So, if you are one of Jesus' disciples, you're assuming that it's going to be somewhere where there's a boat, where there's water involved, and we'll go there and he'll be there. As I said, it did not work out that way this time. Verse 15 is the third time Jesus is said to have known something. I thought this was a touchy question. See if you know it. What are the other two times? This is the third time he's said to know something. What were the other two times?
He knew that the power had left him when the lady touched the hem of his.
What's that?
He said he knew that the power had left him when he asked who touched him.
Okay.
Is it talking about he perceived that they were going to take him away? You had one time when he healed the man at Bethesda.
Now, I thought these were tough, and it may not be that you're thinking of the same ones that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Nathaniel in chapter 2, verses 47 through 50, where he said he knew Nathaniel and had seen him before. And to the Samaritan woman, when she said, "Sir, I have no husband," and he said, "Oh, yeah. Oh, like, I didn't know that, huh?" So he said something he knew about Nathaniel, something he knew about the Samaritan woman, which simply indicates what?
He's all knowing.
Yeah. This is God. You know, we're not talking with just about anybody. We're talking about God who knows all things. And he knew the deal about Nathaniel. He knew the deal about the Samaritan woman. He knew the deal about the situation here. And so we just have to face the fact. Do you find that comforting or discouraging? Scary?
I think it's comforting that you don't have to hide from him. That there's no secrets. He knows you.
Okay. So you find it comforting. Okay. Anybody else?
I'm kind of terrified.
Anybody find it kind of frightening?
Yes, I do. I find it, I'd rather no one know my stuff, but he knows, so it is what it is. It still ain't pretty.
Because that means nobody's getting away with anything. He knows everything's going on. And so he knows what's going on. We made that point. And we also have made the point that he's aware. He's God. He sees it all. And I'm comforted in that because that means he'll get it right. Sometimes people get things wrong, don't they? He'll get it right. But it also is a little scary when it means, ooh, I didn't think anybody knew that. I thought I got away with that. Yeah. And the truth is, no, you don't. What demonstrates the severity of the storm on this occasion? How bad a storm was it? I thought this one was fitting in view of the fact that we're getting ready to have a storm hit Florida, which is going to be supposedly Category 5. And they say that the one before was Category 4. I don't know what this one was, but what tells you it was a pretty tough storm?
There was a great wind. There was a great wind.
There was a great wind. Is that what you said? Yeah. Yeah. He just didn't say, hey, it was windy out, but there was a great wind. And that's kind of surprising in view of the fact that we got John. and a fisherman was writing in his description. It was a great kind of storm above the ordinary. Okay, what else? Now there may be something you're missing here.
It was already dark. It was already dark. It was getting dark already. Already dark.
All right, already dark. Do you know how they counted the different watches? They had only rowed, that's R-O-W-E-D, not R-O-D-E, 3 to 4 miles by the fourth watch, which is from 3 to 6 a.m. Now, these are professional people, and they're out there in a storm, and what are they doing? I mean, they're rowing for all they're worth. And in all of that time, they've made 3.5 miles. And then when they see Jesus, they were afraid. What does that tell you about them?
He wasn't scared.
They were scared. That's right. No ordinary storm at all.
These boats were not big boats. These are relatively.
Yes, these were small boats. These were not great big boats. Yeah. It would have been a small boat, and the waves would have been very difficult for them to go through. But even at that, you would expect that by the time given, they would have made better progress than that. They just were making no progress through the night. What had the multitudes been doing throughout the night?
Camped out. And remained on the other side. They camped out. Waiting on it.
And they were looking for Jesus, weren't they? I think that we have to say they were looking for Jesus. It's like, is he over here? Is he over here? Maybe he's over here. And they were expecting to find him somewhere. Why might they have thought he was someplace else?
They know he didn't get in the boat with them.
Okay. He didn't get in the boat with them. There were other boats gone, so supposedly 2 and 2 equals whatever you want it to. And they've got in that, and they've gone someplace else, and so we will find him somewhere else. And I think what's interesting, when they said, when Jesus saw them, and they saw Jesus thinking it was some kind of a ghost. Do you know what Jesus literally said to them?
Don't be afraid, it's me.
Yeah, don't be afraid. It's I. Now, why is that significance? That's the name for deity, isn't it? Back in the Old Testament, when Moses was to go down and deliver the children of Israel, and it says, when you get there and they said, who sent you? What are we supposed to say? Tell them, I sent you. It is I who sent you. It's not I was, I will be. It is I am who I am, which shows the eternality of Jesus. And so Jesus is even using here a term that indicates that he's God. You want to know who I am? I am. You want to know what to call me? I am. And I think that must surely have quietened them some. And I asked the question, I think this may be kind of a repeat, but what had the multitude been doing throughout the night? Looking for Jesus, right? And they took other boats looking for him. Why did Jesus plainly tell the crowd that they were seeking him? I love this. You saw the bread, and you saw the food. You saw what was given out. Um, you know, we were going to say something, John?
I was going to say they knew the Torah. They knew how God had produced food from heaven. They knew Moses was the leader that was going to take them out of Egypt. So now we have the food again. I mean, man can combine, but only deity, only God can create. They seen this, and it's like 7 minutes ago, it's like, hey, we're into the Roman suppression now. Maybe he can lead us out of Rome.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Maybe, yeah. I think it's interesting that they had confidence that maybe he can get us out of this mess. He can get us out of the situation with Rome, and he's very clear. He doesn't play games with them. He doesn't. Well, let's see what we can figure out exactly why. Like politicians do today. Play 20 questions. He just said, "I know why. You saw what I did. You saw the miracles. You saw the food. You tasted the food. I gave you what you were looking for, and you liked it." Is there a danger that people today will be looking for Jesus for similar kinds of reasons?
You hear a lot of times of people who have professed and not believed in God when a disaster strikes them or their families. I know you're a godly person and you pray for me.
Yes. And I think we saw that in trying to help people during the recent floods and the disaster. That there were people who came out of the woodwork who, I remember I used to go to church here. My grandma's a Christian. I believe. I believe in Jesus, and all of a sudden it's like, you can't play games with the Lord that way. You really can't. You just simply cannot play games with him. He knows exactly what's going on. And he knew he knew what was going on here. What did Jesus tell the people that the work of God was? That you should believe in him whom he sent. Which just is another way of saying, supposed to listen to me. The work of God is that you pay attention to me now. Every time we have had some kind of a national disaster, everybody's gotten all excited about it and super religious until it's over with a little bit, and now we jump back on. I can remember when the attacks were made on the buildings in Washington, New York. People, all of a sudden, next service, were like, "Hey, man, we're here for you. We believe." And then it was like, "Really? Really? Are you sure about that?" And I think we have to be careful about that. At this point, what does the discussion turn to that will set the tone for the rest of the chapter? You said it? Okay.
Is the bread of life?
Bread. And was it natural to have a discussion about bread with a Jew? What's the first thing they would have thought of about bread? Yeah, they would have remembered the bread that they received in the wilderness, the manna that was given. And they had wanted something to eat, and God said, "Okay, here you go." And He gave them manna. It was sweet, good to taste. Wasn't enough, so He gave them more.
Didn't last very long either.
No, that's right. Yeah, it was temporary. It was not a permanent thing. What else would they have remembered about bread?
The Passover. The Passover.
Passover.
The table of showbread. The table of showbread.
Yeah, several things. One other was a table of showbread that was set up in the tabernacle. So they certainly would have remembered that. And what I'm saying is, you mentioned bread to a Jew, he ought to have said, "Oh yeah, I got that." And even the days of unleavened bread, which were a part of the Passover, when they couldn't eat anything leavened in their house, all that had to go. And so you say bread to a Jew, and he says, "I got you. You know about bread." And here he's going to tell them, "I want to tell you about some real bread. Tell you about some bread that came down from heaven. I want to tell you about some bread that's living bread. I want to tell you about some bread that you can eat and never have to eat again." Same thing He told the Samaritan woman about water. He now is going to tell the people about bread. So pick up the study there, if you will, and we will talk about bread, which finishes up the chapter and gets us started in chapter 15 of the book. Appreciate your being here very much, and I wish you extremely well. And I didn't know that I'd be saying this at this time, but stay warm. I came out to get in the car this morning, and I thought, I need my overcoat. How did it get this cold?